I've been waiting more than 20 years for a proper sequel to the Homeworld space strategy games, and finally, Homeworld 3 is here. And let me tell you, it is mostly not worth the wait. Homeworld 3 is a very pretty game that feels like it was made by somebody who had to Google what Homeworld should be. Let's get into it. Alright, first of all, let me say that I am a Homeworld fanboy. I loved playing Homeworld 1 and 2, and then playing the remasters later was an absolute blast. I like the universe of Homeworld artistically and thematically. I think it's one of the most influential space games of its time. It certainly influenced what I compare other space game artwork to. And there's really not a lot of other games out there like it. It's sort of Total War, but in space and with some light resource gathering and building. The main focus is on fleet composition, unit formations and positioning, and responding to or anticipating threats in really smart ways. Building units and researching tech is there as well, but it's not really micromanaging resources and building layout or anything like that. It's really just fleet building and fighting and consuming resources. So naturally, being a longtime fan, waiting patiently for a top quality sequel, I'm a prime candidate for Homeworld 3. And I think the publishers Gearbox kind of understand that there's a lot of guaranteed sales from diehard fans, and thus $60 is the base entry fee, followed by all the deluxe edition price markups for Season 1 Pass and a bunch of other whatever content bundles. Certainly not a cheap game, nor should it be, provided that there's some good quality backing it up. And I'll admit, getting into Homeworld 3 from the very start, I was feeling pretty good about it. The main UI design is clean and it smells like a big money studio. The classic Homeworld sounds are there, creating a fantastic ambiance. Loading into a new campaign and the narrative cues and thematic styling felt right at home. The art team absolutely deserves some props for nailing the styling and graphics so well. The visuals are clean and iconic, the ship scales feel massive, and the sound design and VFX is definitely on point. I really thought I was sinking into another iconic Homeworld campaign. And the beginning is the best. It still feels like it has a lot of potential. The story setup is actually interesting, with a new mysterious enemy using hyperspace weapons to obliterate planets. Imogen, the new navigator for the fleet, seems like she'll have some interesting depth and character development. And sure, the controls and functions at the start are pretty basic, but then again, it's early game, right? I'm sure they'll get way more interesting as they begin to layer in the depth from different missions. Well, it didn't take me long to realize that Homeworld 3 has a giant discrepancy between the game design and the visual design. Where the visuals and audio certainly buy some time in making it feel like an authentic Homeworld game, it simply doesn't have the depth to match. After the first couple of basic task missions, it becomes clear that unit progression is super simple. Each ship class has a single upgrade tier. Once upgraded, they have a single timed ability that you can activate in battle. These abilities could be higher rate of fire for a short period of time or faster engines for a short period of time, but at no point are you given tech tree options to spec your fleet towards a playstyle that you prefer. Nor did I ever feel like I needed to choose between different upgrading options, upgrading fighters or frigates. The upgrades are really cheap and quick to acquire, and once you grab them, they're pretty much permanent for the campaign. Plus, almost every single upgrade ability is a manually activated one, so to make your spaceships better, you need to select them, hit the higher DPS button when they enter combat, and that's pretty much it. Every single ship is like this. And that's essentially the depth to the combat. Select your units, hit the button that makes them better for a short period of time, and then just keep doing that whenever their abilities recharge, which you have to manually track. And this is also pretty much the single most important thing to winning battles and losing as few ships as possible. It really sucks, and I wish there was a much bigger emphasis on fleet formations and stances and stuff like that. In previous Homeworld games, formations and fleet composition were super important. Sending the right ship for the right job was the difference between success and failure. But in Homeworld 3, the first thing I noticed was that the formations just don't really seem to do much, or they would tie into bigger problems of unit pathing being really bad. You have a giant list of formations to pick from, but very few of them seem to have noticeable impacts on the combat. I'm sure it's there, but there isn't really much in-game communicating to you that you picked the right formation or watching ships kill things a lot faster. Not to mention, a lot of the formations just simply didn't do what they said they were going to do. Using a formation that says the big ships will fly out in front with the smaller ships following it, well, that didn't occur at all. The small ships would fly in front, trickling in and getting killed before the big ships got there to give them cover. And that's like the foundation of what any strategy game needs to do, is allow you to easily have all your units move together and attack in unison, not trickling in and getting killed one at a time. Yet most of the game is spent fighting with your units to just not do stupid things. The original game from 1999 had a much better grasp on this, so it's wild to see a modern title not be able to replicate such an old game in terms of just unit composition. And the larger fleet composition is another sore point for me, where in past Homeworld games it seemed like you had a lot more choice in types of what types of units you might want to build for your campaign to try and get through. Are you going to focus on ion frigates and heavy fighters? Homeworld 3 forces you into a ridiculous amount of unit variety, even though you might not want it. I remember in the past games getting hundreds of a specific unit and then enjoying the crazy swarm effect of setting them all after a single target. Now it feels like a forced variety situation and a management burden, but without a fun factor paying off. It also makes your fleet feel just way more generic and less specialized. Now narratively, Homeworld 3 quickly starts to drop the ball. The premise for the game is fun. There's some new mysterious baddie out there in the verse, and some fun narrative tie-ins to older titles. But as soon as any depth or detail is added, things start to fall apart really quick. Imogen, the fleet navigator, who is allegedly a genius and is also your people's last hope, is apparently a 20-something-year-old who needs to repeat motivational mantras to help her remain cool under pressure. Not the calm, cool fleet commanders of the previous games. She almost feels like a coming-of-age high school drama type character, but randomly in charge of a giant fleet of ships. The really mediocre CGI rendering doesn't help her either. And the cutscenes alone really just do not live up to that $60 game price tag. And without getting into spoilers, the main villain also quickly becomes pretty much the same situation. Every time the villain shows up, I was just thinking, how did this child of a person come into power? It makes no sense. Now, outside of the campaign, there are some new, more innovative things, like Homeworld's roguelike solo or co-op mode. It starts off with smaller fleet management and gets progressively more challenging as you go from level to level. And I actually like this mode. It seems to have the most promise of anything in the game. It provides something new. There's difficulty modifiers that you can apparently throw on there, but again, it still suffers from many of the other unit issues I mentioned from before. Setting your ships to guard resource controllers while they go off to harvest, and then finding that the resource controllers got to their destination way before your combat units because your combat units were struggling to get in the right formation or something. Just all kinds of dumb stuff like that happening all the time. You can't really set and forget in this game. You gotta watch what your units are doing all the time or you're gonna lose them. It really does hurt me to make a negative video about Homeworld 3 because I was looking forward to this game so much. Visually, Homeworld 3 lives up to the past titles, bringing the IP firmly into 2024, but everything else needs loads of work. The campaign feels like it might be a bit of a lost cause at this point, but there might be something else to salvage in the roguelike mode. I do hope that Gearbox takes a long, hard look at the shortcomings of this title and the importance of this IP and delivers some important fixes so that Homeworld can remain an impressive IP and not one that fizzled out with a visual first, gameplay second approach to development. I'm going to keep my eyes peeled for updates coming down the road, but unless something big changes quickly, it's going to be hard to recommend this title, at least at full price. Maybe for a $30 buy-in, I'd say, yeah, sure, go have some fun with Homeworld, but $60 is asking a lot for the quality of the gameplay. I'd be curious to hear your thoughts on Homeworld 3. Let me know in the comments, and if you enjoyed this video, don't forget to drop me a like, subscribe for more content like it, ding that notification bell to beat the YouTube algorithm with me, and up next, check out Star Citizen's latest major update. Is Star Citizen finally becoming mainstream? Well, we'll explore that concept right here. As always, guys, thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you next time. This is Level Cap, signing off.